Niama Kwe, and this is my beautiful wife,
Kristen Tellis Quay.
And we represent Certified Africa. And we're excited today because we want to share, some thoughts. I always like to say thoughts, with you all regarding Africa. We have dedicated every single Friday, for Africa. So it's exciting to be here today. So Thank you all for joining. We'll be looking at your messages as we move along. So you can look at it. All right, so today we're looking at very important topic, let me say area or subject regarding Africa and the diaspora, which we believe is very important, very, very necessary. Okay. Now, last week we started talking about establishing roots in Africa, having a second home or building a second home, I like to call it, on the continent of Africa. And today we're continuing on that path where we're giving you reasons why you should consider doing that. Because we believe people outside of the continent, it is very crucial that we consider Africa as a place or as a destination that we could, raise a generation of Black people from. I believe that's strong. We want to be part of it. And a lot of people, cliff, I call it a cliff because they want to jump in, but some of them, just a little thing is holding them back.
Yeah.
So those are the things that we want to address on our Fridays each time we come live. And today we want to look at another very solid reason why people must consider having a second home or making Africa a second permanent, if you like, destination. If I say permanent,
establishing roots.
Exactly. It doesn't mean you're like, if I say permanent, it doesn't mean you're living there 24/7 all day. You can come back to the US, but at least there's a place for you. You have established a base that children can even grow up at, which is very key. And of course, our children will grow up in Africa for sure. So today we're talking about prosperity and legacy.
Yeah.
Whoa. Somebody asked, what should I have a second home in Africa? Why I thought should I establish roots in Africa? But people ask that question a lot. And one of the second reasons, last week we talked about peace and happiness, and we went deep into it. Watch our previous video. Today we're going into prosperity and legacy. The key thing here is that in Africa, the key thing is that for people to note is that, Africa has a lot of opportunities, but there's something that a lot of people, especially from Africa, like to ask, and even some outside of Africa, that, well, if Africa has all the opportunities, why are people in Africa maybe not capitalizing on it and doing anything about it? Yes, that's a legitimate question. So I like to clear that since we're talking about prosperity and legacy, one will wonder, why do they tag Africa like this? Why can't Africans, even me myself, what am I doing on the continent? Stuff like that. Now, the reality is that with Africa, the opportunities are there, no two ways about it. However, it's always the startup capital that makes the difference. Startup, what it takes to begin or to take advantage of whatever, opportunity there is, or what it takes to be able to start solving those problems is what the key issue is.
And also being able to see the opportunities
Exactly.
and understand them.
Now, the reason I say this is that when it comes to the diaspora, we have an advantage when it comes to the startup. So, and that's why partnership comes in. Because now think about it, we have what it takes to start. They have the opportunities, the problems to be solved. Now, what's two? Let's combine the startup with the problems so we can come up with a solution. That's opportunity right there. So I like to clarify that part. So we're not saying that people in Africa, they can't. The opportunities are there, but the startup is always the key. But that's why we start up, and we're saying we can take the startup back and then build something beautiful and amazing for both ourselves and the people in Africa. Now, there's a caveat here I like to note before we get into it. It's not a it's not all rosy. I like people to understand that it's not all rosy when we talk about Africa and opportunities and all of that, building prosperity and legacy. It's not all rosy. You need to go through some hurdles here and there. But at the end of the day, it is very rewarding and it's worth it. That's the key. Let's dive right into it. Why do you establish roots in Africa? Prosperity and legacy. I mean, babe, how do you give me an idea of prosperity and legacy? I mean, you're passionate about legacy. What do you think about the legacy as we go into this?
I think that legacy is so key for Black people. I think that we need to begin to focus on what do we want to pass on the next generation, and multifaceted. A lot of times we think about generational wealth, which is awesome. That's something that we should aspire to pass on. But it's also the knowledge. It's also the culture. It's also a change in mindset. It's also the skill of being able to provide on our own, of not having to work for someone else, giving our next generation the ability to be creative, think on their feet, and be revolutionary and be change makers in today's world. We want to produce the next generation that's going to lead. And so when we're thinking about legacy, we want to begin to think about other ways that we can do it, and other ways that we can do it a lot faster.
Solid, very solid. We live for the next generation. So we're saying that you should come to Africa to build something that you can actually live for the next generation where you're no longer around. In fact, you can
even enjoy some while
exactly
you are
my
around.
point.
Sometimes we talk about generational wealth in the sense of you won't get a chance to enjoy it. But we're talking about both parts. We're talking about leaving something for the next generation to enjoy and for yourself to enjoy.
The first reason that I like to talk about under the prosperity and legacy is having a major impact.
Mm-hmm.
Because you see, Africa is a place that, like we always say, of course, there are a lot of problems to solve, just like any part of the world. But Africa is very peculiar. We don't know our history and things that are happening in all of that, but that's no excuse, justification. As it stands now, Africa has a lot of problems that needs to be solved.
Yeah.
And you see, in solving these problems, what I see there is an opportunity, an impact of that.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of us that, of course, being in America, I don't know what you'll be doing. The spaces are kind of occupied, in terms of real impact. And I see Africa, when we talk about legacy, I don't look at it just as what you acquire in terms of physical, whatever, but what you can give, what you can give out, what you can change and contribute. If one day we look at the Africa we expect by 2030, 2063, which a lot of us will be old, you want to be able to leave an imprint, say, look, I was part of this growth, and I was part of those that contributed to this change happening. That is impact. And that's one of the key things when it comes to the legacy piece, as you can be part of when you decide to establish roots or base in Africa, the impact. What do you think about impact? People going to Africa and having impact. What have you seen in visiting the continent?
Well, I've seen the people who usually step out and decide to go to Africa and do something different, do something out of the ordinary. They usually find themselves in spaces that Black people ordinarily would not find themselves if they were to step out in, I say in the States or in other places. So what I mean by that is oftentimes you're coming from the diaspora, you're coming from the outside, your opinion, seems to be regarded with well respect. Your contribution seems to be regarded with well respect. There are a lot of African Americans who have decided to get involved with Africa, and they're invited in spaces with the president, or they're invited to sit on platforms and discuss and speak. And ordinarily, those platforms, we wouldn't be able to sit on those platforms, maybe taking a step out, here in the States. So it just gives you an integrated pathway.
Exactly. People have asked me, how can I serve? What can I do? Can I contribute? When you talk to people who think about Africa, to come to Africa, I mean, they're thinking about how they can give something back to society, how they can contribute something major, to have a very lasting impact, on society. And I tell them, look, Africa is a great place to have. It's a great place to establish that. Come to Africa and think about having an impact. You can add that to your portfolio in terms of your legacy that you leave behind. They say that it was A, B, and C who renovated this school in Africa. And generations that will come, your name will be there, that you have this impact in Africa. That is a legacy. So when we talk about establishing roots in Africa, these are the things that we're looking at. You coming to have an impact. Very key and very important. You can go ahead. No,
I'm going to add something. So, when we're talking about these opportunities or problems, people may want to see it, but we call them opportunities. I see in these opportunities, a lot of them need to be solved. And if you come when we talk about impact, you could be the first person to solve this particular problem. Now, you've made a huge impact. You changed your life, and you've changed your next generation's life. You changed your family's life,
For good.
and you've made a huge imprint on Africa's development in a positive way. And why it's so important for Black people to be the ones to this, to make this impact, is because we have a connection to this place. This is the place ancestors came from. There's nobody that's going to care about Africa the way that a Black about Africa. And there's so many other people who are doing business on the continent today, but they don't have that connection, the way that connection. And so it's important that we as Black people go and we connect roots, and that we infuse that care that we have, that touch that we have, with the culture, impactful work that we want to do.
Let me give you an example. Like a man like W. Du Bois. Now, Du Bois, okay. Du Bois. W. Du Bois. Now, he went to Ghana. He visited Ghana some time back. And of course, he came back. He went there to of course, serve. Because that was a time that the Nkrumahs were dealing with the Pan-African movements and all of that. But Du Bois decided to add his voice to the fight to make sure Black people are free for good. So he went, did what he wants to do, he came back. Now, at a point in time, Du Bois wanted a place, of course, more or less to seek asylum, if you like, because, I mean, he was hammering on the Pan-Africanism and Africans being free and all of that. And of course, the oppressor didn't want that. So he had to come back to Ghana and have a lot more impact before he passed. Today, when you come to Ghana, so many years after, they have a museum for W.E. Du Bois. That's what the impact can do. It's a legacy. Anybody who comes after W.E. Du Bois is able to go there and see that my father made this contribution, a legacy on the continent. Africa gives you that opportunity. That's why you should think of having a second home. The second thing I wanted to talk about is Africa, you can build anything from scratch. And Akon says that look, Africa is a place you can go to and build anything from scratch. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah. I'm sure that most of us have probably seen that video where Akon talks about how Africa is the only place where you can go and you can build a Fortune 500 in less than 5 years. And to me, that's volumes. That is so telling. That lets you know that this is a place where things are moving fast, where growth is so huge, where the opportunity is so huge that we as Black people have to get involved.
I can tell you, anything you want to build from scratch, I'm telling you, the room is there for you to build in Africa. So when you're thinking of a place where you don't want too much crowdedness, it's a good place to come. Take your time. Whatever it is you want to build, take your time, build it, and within some time, if you put in the work, I'm telling you, you're going to build something amazing that will last. Africa gives you that opportunity. They're having a second home there, establishing roots there for not just you, but your kids as well. I'm telling you, you can easily do that. And that leads me to the next point, affordability. Why you should consider establishing roots, affordability, my goodness. When we talk about affordability, people say, I mean, Accra, which is the capital of Ghana, it's expensive as other capitals in the world. Yes, that's true, but we'll go into that. Now, cost of living. Generally, anybody will testify if you've been to Africa. Let me say Ghana, specifically. If you've been to Ghana, cost of living is way better, I'm telling you, than cost of living here in America. In Britain, I can tell you for a fact. Now, somebody say, well, it depends on the type of life you want to live. Yes, that's true. But I'm telling you, whatever the standard, if you compare to that same standard in America, it's always good in Africa. So affordability is one of the key things. And what that does is that looking at the bigger picture, it helps you to be able to have more to be able to build. Because if you're at a place where the system soaks all that you have from you, sucks everything away from you, how can you build anything solid?
I know.
To enjoy prosperity. People never enjoy.
In America,
people grow
it's
older.
like the moment that you get that paycheck, then you have to pay your rent. That sucks up money. You have to do this. You have this bill. You have this bill. You have this bill. And so many people are pulling at the money that you get in, and many people find themselves living to paycheck. They don't have anything left over to build. And so what we're saying is, yourself in a position that allows you not have to live paycheck to paycheck. Because just think about it. If you live paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. What will you have when it's time to finally retire? If we're thinking about, what America tells us, the traditional way that, most people do it, it's you work until you get ready to retire. And if you're living paycheck to paycheck at the time of retirement, you still wouldn't have saved enough.
And most people don't even get to enjoy what it worth for, but we'll touch that
That's
at
true.
the bottom. But key thing is that affordability is very key. Now, we're not saying living in Africa overall is cheap based on where you live, the location thing, but you need to choose wisely. When I tell people, when you come to Africa, you need to think of where exactly you want to build. It's very key, not just rent and all of that, but where you want to build. Africa, I'm telling you, if you put 2 and 2 together, you can easily build one. About diaspora coming from the outside, you can be able to do this easily because you have the disposable income, and it's going to now help you to be able to create more because what you have is a lot. You can use that to initiate a process that gives you the prosperity that you may never have maybe wherever you are as a diasporan. Now that's very key. Let me give you an example using land, for instance. Okay, let me give you an example using land.
Okay.
For instance, in Florida, there are, what do you call it? There are lands that if we're looking for lands, you see land here, $20,000 for
$25,000, $30,000, $100,000.
There you go.
Depending on the areas that you want to start
building. Even in some of the remote places, they're very much expensive. Now, however, when you come to the continent, let me use Ghana for instance, you can be able to get land at a good location close to the sea for $5,000. 3,000, 2,000, based on where it is. In fact, you can get land for $500 based on where you're looking at. You can get some for $200. I guarantee you, based on where you're looking at. So that gives you a window when it comes to building prosperity and legacy in that respect. And that's what Africa gives you. And that's what we're saying. You should consider Africa as a second home. There's no, nothing bad about it. Consider it. Now, the next thing I want us to look at is the opportunity. Which is very key because you can't talk about prosperity and legacy without looking at opportunities. So we'll go into the opportunity space, which is very important. Okay, but again, like I said, I think you mentioned earlier that people must open their eyes and see that. Let's look at some opportunities on the continent, but talk about opportunities in general before we dive into individual opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, so many different industries and areas. I always like to say for people who, a lot of people ask, well, what industry should I get involved in? What is most needed on the continent? A lot of times they like to start there. Or what's the most successful business that I'll make a lot of money? What I say that you should lead with, look at what you have a skill set in, you're passionate about. Look at what you want to be involved with in the long term. I'm sure that there is something that related to those particular interests. That's
very key. So it's all about finding loopholes you can fill, finding problems you can solve. That's what it's about. That's what opportunities piece is about. So we're saying if you want to have prosperity, it comes with the problems you can solve. If you look at all the big companies, all the people who have made it to create wealth and all of that, they found problems that it could solve. I'm saying if wherever you are in the diaspora, you're not finding problems you can solve, I'm saying come to Africa, there's a lot you can actually find to solve. Now, let's look at some sectors in Africa that is very key, stands out, that people can look at when it comes to opportunity in creating prosperity and legacy for the generation. Now, agriculture is a very key piece. The reason I like to talk about agriculture first is because, Africa has 60% of the world's unused land. So what better can you talk about? We talk about opportunities than agriculture as the first entry point.
Yeah.
And to people to do the work on the farms and all of that, the people who they're already doing it. They love doing it. Don't get it twisted. They love doing it. They love planting and eating.
Yeah.
They like it. They enjoy it. So all you are going to do, push that to the next level. You're going to put in that a reality. Nothing gets easier than that. Agriculture. Now, what talk about value addition as a piece in Africa?
So, for instance, a lot of times when we take for granted some of the little small things that could be a business opportunity when we're living here in the States. So for instance, when you go to the States and you see, or you go to the grocery store and you're living, if you see is a packaged, it may be a packaged vegetable. So you may have an assortment of vegetables like carrots or squash or something, and it may have a plastic covering over like 4 different pieces of carrots. That is value addition. You've now added a covering around that that vegetable, which prolongs its ability to be sold in a store. It prolongs its ability to be shipped. It prolongs its ability to last longer.
Exactly.
And a lot of times there are no companies who are doing that. There are not a lot of companies who are taking something, putting a label
on it, exactly,
and packaging it and making it look so that it can prolong life on the shelf. That itself is a business opportunity.
And a lady did that. A lady lived in the U.S. She moved, and she did that beautifully. Her company is called Alaska Tanzania, and she got the idea from seeing all things in Walmart and all of that. And she's like, "Whoa, all we to take the things that we're already producing and let's package it nicely." She doesn't even have to be on the farm to work. All she needs to do is, once the farmers farm, they love to do, and they bring the produce. I've set up a system where I've created labels. And we need a lot of this actually to preserve these foods. And she puts her label on it and puts it on the shelves in the supermarket. That's an opportunity right in that Greek sector. The production piece where you actually put the money into the farming. You do the export is ready. If you look at the amount of that Africa imports every year, think about it, it's so much. So if you can have a partner, if you can partner with a Ghanaian, some other African American, some other African in the diaspora, and then say we want to go into farming, we want to grow things, because they will never stop eating. And if you look at the Africa 63, 20, 30, food, hunger is one of the key things. Agriculture is one of the pillars that we look at, because there will always be people wanting to eat. Africa can stop the import that they do. So think about agriculture.
I just wanted to add a second piece. So, it's some things that we don't even think about. So for instance, let's say that you take a crop like pineapples, and you're farming, you have a pineapple farm, and you just produce the raw pineapples, and you take those to the grocery store, you sell them. Oftentimes those are not packaged in the store. The way that you can add value addition, and I think Neeb was telling me about a company that's actually in Ghana. It's not even their main method or motives, but they take these fruit that they're using and they're juicing them, and they've now made a fresh juice.
Yeah, blue skies. They call it blue skies.
They put into stores now, so they've added an extra income by thinking about value addition as a business opportunity.
Yeah, that's Africa. That's what our Great can do for you. That's one opportunity. The thing is, you don't need too much to start these things. You don't need too much to start these things. You need too much to start it, and that helps you answer all the questions.
Yes, for everybody that's sitting.
Answer all the questions once we get into it. Now, another sector which is very key that can create prosperity, legacy for your next generation and for the African continent development is information technology. We live in a world of technology. Everything is becoming IT. In fact, even farming is now done with IT technology, and that's a huge sector in Africa that people can look at. Some of the aspects that people can look at is the training piece. E-commerce is huge in America, in Europe. It's now growing. That's a huge people can look at.
So when you take a look, or when you take a sector like training, for instance, a skills-based, you look at how China has revolutionized their workforce, their ability of so many people living there, and they've now turned that into, production, and they've allowed for people to get training to be in these various fields. You can come in, you can provide training, skills-based for companies in the U.S. and all over the world to be able to come in and say, hey, we have so many people who are currently employed and we have enough jobs. Why don't we create some sort of skills-based training so that companies can help, and you can be the person that comes up with this employment resource.
A company called Gebea in Ethiopia. It's 2 gentlemen from the US actually built that. It's an IT company where they train people in Africa for the world to come, and then they could do the work, because they have the hands to learn the trade. They learn the trade, not they don't just keep it just in Africa. They service people, and that's powerful. Internet solutions, telecommunications, fintech, payment systems. That's very key and important. That Africa needs a lot of it.
With some huge number of the amounts of I'm blanking, the amount of money that goes back to or that passes between these payment platforms each year in remissions. So these are people who have left and they're in the diaspora and they're sending money back to the continent. And there are payments that are being coming up with, and they provide some sort of tax on each dollar or amount that you send back. That's another way for you to be able to quickly and to be able to, solve a solution of how do I get money back to my friend quickly.
Exactly.
Nobody wants to wait a long time to receive those
you see,
funds.
don't make a mistake and think that, okay, I mean, if once there's somebody doing it, I don't want to come in. Africa needs a lot of things to grow and things to advance.
Look at this state.
Limited.
You got 1,000,001 not Coke. You have 1,000,001 soda products. You have 1,000,001 bread companies. You have 1,000,001 clothing companies. And it's all how you put your branding, your story, your twist on it. So please, if you have an idea and you see that somebody's already doing it, doesn't matter. We still need you.
Exactly. Now let's talk about these are huge opportunities that people can jump on. You can start from somewhere if you have an expertise in that area. Now let's look at tourism. Tourism in Africa. Tourism. I think that tourism should be one of the things that should be talked about more in Africa because all the natural resources you can think about, we have it. All the attraction sites that you can imagine all over the world. That's a piece of it, a huge piece of it. So when you're talking about opportunities in any way, you should consider tourism as a key place. The reason also is because
so many things that stem from
for under tourism, so many things. Now starting from and that once we deal with this, it touches on other areas as well, like tourist accommodation. Let's use Ghana for instance. And Ghana needs a lot of accommodation solutions when it comes to for tourists to stay. We have some, but there's room for more. So there's competition. So if I go here, they don't treat me well, I can go here because there's a lot. The window is there. If you travel from the capital to other tourist sites, we don't just along the way that people can actually stay, like rest stops that people can actually stop. If you're doing long journeys, you can even rest along the way. We don't have too many of that. That's an opportunity right there. Technically in real estate that people can consider. You don't have to do too much. You don't have to do it alone too. My previous video I talked about that. Partner with somebody. If you have a little, find somebody who also. Let's combine. Let's go build something solid on the continent. And you're quick to go. So accommodation when it comes to tourism is very key. The next I'll talk about is transportation.
Yeah.
What do you think about transportation?
Yeah, that is obviously an extension of tourism. When you have all of these people who are coming to the continent and they will travel to the Alta region, or they may want to travel to the north or these other places. They're going to need a way to they may not want to drive. So they're going to be looking for a driver. You can provide a driver, you can provide a car, or you can, provide rental car services. Or maybe you might want to find a niche sector where it's like, okay, people are coming and they're looking for certain types of cars. I can provide those certain types of cars that people normally wouldn't have provided. I think there's somebody that's actually doing that. They provide luxury cars. And so when all of these stars are coming to Ghana, they're contacting that one person who can rent them a Bentley for the weekend or wherever, because that person specializes and they're dominating that market. There's nobody else that's doing that. So
you want to look into that. A transport system or service is a huge step to look at when it comes to continent. You can partner with somebody, start with one car. The next time you have two. And by the time you realize you're solid for yourself and for your family and the way you're headed. There's a woman who has built, a company that runs a fleet of cars, and she's actually from America. She's African American that left to Ghana, and she's built that today her cars are all over the place. She started from one many. That is food and beverage. Oh, people like to eat a lot.
That's one thing that's not in.
Eat. And think about it. And one thing I've realized in Ghana, for instance, where some of the windows are, is if you look at the tourist sites, those places can be a little tricky. So I was sharing an idea with my wife some time ago, which I don't know if throw it here as a bit my business idea. Where if you went to all of these, you don't need to build anything anything that will be opening every time. But you give yourself a window, a time, and say, look, this is my set place. And we have one on that Crackman Road, but it's very limited. We have a lot of routes to all the tourist attraction sites, but there's nothing there along the way that you can get solid, good food that you can take along with you.
Fast.
That's a place fast.
Yeah.
That's something that people can begin to think. Don't let everybody think about coming to choke in the capital when it comes to food and beverage service. No, like look at other places. Always are traveling there 24/7. So that's something you can look at. You create priority and legacy.
It could be
for your family.
Even something combined where it is, a rest stop. You gas up. You can grab snacks. You can grab a meal. So many different things that you can combine.
And don't think of doing these things alone. Again, if you can't do it, if you don't have the power right now, partner with somebody. Collaboration. That's one thing the Black community needs as well too. The ability to collaborate and partner with other people. That look, I can do it on my own. I don't have to. So bring something on board. I bring something, and let's build this legacy together. So we're saying, look, Africa gives you that opportunity for you to be able to do that. So I mean, if you're show up and they see that, whoa, man, that was able to build this. When we talk about food and beverage in Africa, she's one of the key players. When we talk about supplying food, don't take it for granted. And these things, we see it, but it makes a lot of money. And you employ a lot of people. At the end of the day, you have an impact. At the same time, you create prosperity or wealth for yourself. Entertainment, leisure, and sports is another major area. If people who have interest in that, into that field, it's a very big window. Now, shopping. Ghana don't have very huge shopping centers properly. It doesn't have to be big, but with AC in it and all of that, supermarket type of shopping, where we talk about in the agric, you can come and put your produce. We don't have a lot of that. We need people to build that across the continent, and a lot of that could generate resource. You build the facility, people bring the things to put in there. The buyers come and buy. Africa has a bias, I tell you. The buyers come and buy. You employ people, you make money, the continent makes money as well. And there we go. We're building Africa together as Black people. Tourist rest stops, talk about it, So we talk real estate basically through we talk about hotels, we talk about, houses. These are opportunities that people can think about. You can buy land somewhere,
Airbnb,
build Airbnb, whatever it is.
There's going to be people constantly coming to the continent. Like that could be a moneymaker for you, or when it's not in use, you're renting it out on a nightly basis. It's so many different things.
Just the first time she came to Ghana, actually, the place she stayed, the owner of the place lives in, and she took money from New York, basically, and the house was in Ghana. Somebody was taking care of it, and she was living there, and she was making money in New York. So you see how it works. She comes to Ghana, she can stay there if she wants to. If she's not there, it's Airbnb, she's renting and she's making money, cash flow. Her children can inherit it. If she's no longer there, they are now the bosses. You've given your children that opportunity, that legacy that we're talking about. Africa gives you the room. Maybe in America, you'll never be able to do anything to even use Airbnb. But Africa, if you put yourself together from the diaspora, you can be able to do that. Now, some other sectors we'll touch on. We wouldn't go into it. The health sector, there's a lot of opportunities in the health sector that people can look at if you do your research. Health is very key. Africa needs a lot of health things. If you look at all the legs comes with the health sector, it's key. People should look at that. Education, that's another huge piece that we should really look into as an opportunity field. If you're a teacher, if you're somebody who's passionate about, running a school, not just a school, of course, publishing books, whatever it is, school supplies, there's room for all of these things.
There's room for innovation.
There's a lot of room for.
So another sector that a lot of people, think about is beauty. So, women are, of course, looking at makeup products. They're looking at hair products. So you can import hair, you can import makeup, or you could even provide those services. So people are still going to want to get their nails done. People are still going to want to get their hair done. And they're going to be looking for people to provide these services. So there's so many different things in the beauty industry that you could take advantage of.
Yep, and that takes us to import and export. Now, this is a very tricky area, but very key and important. But you may not have to do much. All you have to do is scout people that need things in America, in Europe, in wherever. Come to Africa, find people that can supply that. Get it from them, you give it to the person that wants it. That's it. That's all there. You don't even have to do anything. You become like a middleman. You get from here, you send it here, take your money, you pay this, you get your portion. Import and export. And people, again, a lot of the things that the world needs comes from Africa, in case you didn't know that. So you can position yourself as a black person on the continent where you're finding buyers for the sellers on the continent. You find the buyer, you match the buyer with the seller, you find the seller, you match it with a buyer from outside, and that's your business rights.
That could be a business idea, or you find the buyers. And there are a lot of buyers. We don't know this. We don't always think about it, but a lot of times in TJ Maxx and all Ross and all of these different stores, they are buying these items from African or from making them, and then they're coming and putting them in the store, and now you're buying them and you have no idea where they come from. I think there was some sort of event where there were actually some ladies from Ghana making like the baskets. I'm forgetting the name of the baskets, but these beautiful weaved baskets that they were making, and the people from TJ Maxx were coming in and I want this particular item. I want this item. I want that item in the store. And now they brought it to the store. You could be that person connecting them to these various items.
One of the apparel and garments gurus in Ghana and fashion gurus in Ghana, Mrs. Nora Bannerman, she runs Sleek Garments, and she used to supply a lot of things to Ross from Ghana. She supplies Ross all those things. When you go to Ross and you see the outfits, you're wondering where it comes from. It's made from Ghana, and she makes them. And a lot of several other companies that she supplies to. So these things that people don't think about really.
Don't sleep on the fashion industry. It's like some huge number per year that the fashion industry is.
Yes, but on top of my head, but it's a lot. Don't take it for granted. Now, the biggest opportunity on the continent that you can think about and build prosperity and legacy is yourself. What are you passionate about? What are you passionate about? That is a good starting point. Think about what you're passionate about. Think about bringing that thing to Africa and building that thing right there. That's the pathway. In fact, this is what God actually, this is the biggest thing that God uses to actually lift people and bless people. The ability to use their passions to build something or to save the world. That's the key. That's the key. Find your passion. When you find your passion and you come to Africa, you find a need for it. It's a place to channel that passion. I'm telling you, Africa is a big place. Africa, if Ghana doesn't suit your passion, go to Ethiopia. Other people have tried, came to Ghana, didn't suit, they went to Ethiopia. Others went to Ethiopia, it didn't suit them to Ghana. It's just the way it is. So find where your passion lies, how you can use your skill set to be a blessing for the continent. Now, before so these are opportunities that we've touched on. There are millions other ones. We thought we'd just touch on these few ones, to show you that you can actually have prosperity and legacy right on the continent from the diaspora. That is very key. If you're coming from the diaspora, this is very important. Now, the next thing that I'll touch on briefly has to do with the fact, aside all of these building and prosperity and legacy we're talking about, the way it's set up, people have the opportunity to enjoy the build. Because I've seen too many people work. Recently, a family friend of ours, Kristen's godmother, was telling that she knew somebody who worked, gathered her money for retirement. And by the time she retired, she had a stroke. So now she couldn't enjoy anything she's worked for because of the stress and the hassle that comes with the system. Because you always have to play catch up. I'm telling you, the beautiful thing about Africa, it may not be the best in terms of but the slow pace gives people the opportunity to live every single day. So everything that you're building, you get to live. That's the reality. Let me give you this testimony my former boss shared with me some time back. She talked about when she was in the United Kingdom and she was working. When she used to go to work, she actually used to cry, sitting on the bus and going to work. She cried when she relocated to Ghana. And she's been building something amazing. One of the major pillars when it comes to justice reforms in Ghana, Mrs. Sandra Thompson. Very important. Mrs. Sandra Thompson, very key. And that's what Africa gives you. That opportunity to pause, and then enjoy what you're building.
Mm-hmm.
That is crucial. That is crucial. So in closing, we're closing, talking about establishing roots in Africa.
Yeah.
In closing, one may ask, what's the way forward? What's the way forward? What's the way forward? Here's the way forward. We're saying you should build a home or business in Africa.
Roots.
Establish roots in Africa. The way forward is
start looking for a place that you can, go look at properties, find a way to get land, start thinking about how I can make a transition back and forth. It doesn't even have to be a permanent stay.
It doesn't.
But again, you can start establishing something.
Very key. Very key. Home and business. And you can start by visiting. If you have not visited, for those who haven't visited at all, start by visiting. When you're visiting, be open-minded and look around you. Look around and see what you can find.
The key thing about coming with us is that when you're visiting, a lot of times people they visit and they go for the cultural experience and the cultural experience only. And then they come back and they hear people start to talk about business opportunities, or they hear people start to talk about buying land, and it's like, oh, I was just there, but I didn't hit on any of those topics. What we've done is we've created an experience that as you're going through and you're experiencing culture and you're connecting to your roots, you're also able to see from a business perspective, what are the opportunities, what are the neighborhoods? You get to ask questions like, what are the neighborhoods that I may be able to live in? All of these different important questions when you're thinking about establishing.
So if you visited, think about going, and then now finding a place that you can call home for yourself and for your children, building a business. And you can do that through partnerships, through starting a new startup. You can do through just investments into other things that already exist, business that already exists. You can do that as well. Now, on that note, we'll talk about our upcoming trip. Then we could answer the question. And then we could bounce out. Now, we have a very important trip that is coming up that, because of the subject we talked about, prosperity and legacy, we'd like to touch on that, which is our trip next year. We call it Couple in Biz trip.
Yeah,
Couples in Business experience in Ghana in 2021 September. And this experience is going to basically take couples from the US.
Or from the diaspora.
From the diaspora.
You can be anywhere.
From outside of Africa. And then we're going to go to Ghana. We're going to not just have a good time, but we're going to purposely look how we could build something on the continent. Basically, that's what we're going to look. We're going to scout out and think about where we could find something we could connect with. Basically, so we do that in a fun, romantic way, but at the same time focused on what we could build as a couple. So that trip is coming up. It's called Love and Biz. Check out our website. That's very key. Or Instagram, you can still find it.
Yep, Instagram.
Find it there.
You can email us at certifiedafrica@email.com.
All right, let's look at some of the questions.
Okay, so here's one. Brandon. So Brandon asked us, are there opportunities for African Americans who move? What is the African acceptance actually like? I'm American with Haitian and Jamaican blood. Okay,
so now this is a subject that I was just telling my wife that we need to talk about it. The question he's asking, what is the African acceptance actually like? I think Africans genuinely accept African Americans or blacks from the outside, whether from Jamaica, from Trinidad, from wherever. But you see, it's human nature. Once you speak to somebody and instantly they're able to identify back. But the way Africans are set up, once we're able to connect, that's it. We move full swing. So there's no problem with that. So yes, the opportunities for Americans who move, there are a lot of it, like those we've mentioned. I'm sure they asked this question earlier before we actually.
Yep. He said, so I apologize for jumping right to the question. Good afternoon, and thank you for sharing. My friends and I were just talking about the idea of moving, and my friends think there is no way an American can just up and move to have business and be accepted over all much less liked.
Good. So again, it's talking about having businesses and of course the acceptance piece, which, like I said, we have to address that thing, whether or not Africans in Africa accept African Americans. I feel like it's a huge, controversy that people have here and there, but I'm as an African that Africans, receive or are happy to receive African Americans or other people, other Black people from other parts of the world back to Africa. We're open. It doesn't mean you don't find some few bad nuts. Just like anywhere, you find some few bad nuts, which is due to their personal insecurities. Okay, but overall, I'm telling you, overall, you find a family, you find a good community that you could work with like never before. So that you should just know that. So the business opportunities are there. So don't let anybody deceive you. We've talked about a lot of it.
Thank you, Tamika. So any way to start the business before going to Ghana, or do you need to be there to start it?
If you never visited at all, it's very key for you to visit first of all. Now, once we do with helping people who want to move and people want to start businesses, is that we can give you everything that you need. However, you have to eventually take the step. Once you come first, if you do what we have first before going, it helps you to be able to see things differently because you're much more focused on what exactly you're looking for and what you're going to initiate. However, it is not bad, is it? And you like the country. If you like the particular country, then of course you can take the next step of trying something because build relationships. That's very key for any business. Once you're not going to be there permanently, you need relationships with people you can trust. Okay, so that's very key. You can build a business before going to Ghana, but then because you need people, you need to be there.
Okay, so that was all of our questions.
From Instagram, does Instagram have any question?
Let's see. Let's take a look here.
All right, somebody information. Is it Grady Terrell?
Yeah. Okay, we'll send him.
Yeah, we'll send you
some more information.
All the information. Dwayne, hey.
Hi, family. Hi, cousin.
And then we have Jay also here. Umar. I see a name there, Abdul Umar. Yeah, good to have you all here. We appreciate you all. If you're not joining us, you can go back and watch. We'll talk about.
I have to look this way and see if there was any questions.
We talked about how you could, why you should establish roots.
That's it.
So why you should think of establishing roots in Africa, having a second home for your next generation, for your children. We talk about prosperity and legacy, and we went into it, and we had on key business opportunities and sectors that people can look at that can help build prosperity and having an impact in that respect. We talked about it, so you can go back and check it out. We appreciate you all for joining. We'll be back here. There's a question. What are the most profitable businesses that? There are a lot of profitable businesses to start.
Are you just joining us, Jay?
You should go back and watch the video once we're done on YouTube. Because we talked about a lot of the business opportunities. So you can reach out to us as well. certifiedafrica@gmail.com. We can always have personal conversations about that as well. But check the video out. We've talked about that quite well. Now, before we bow out, let Africa remain on your hearts and minds. If you're not visited, think about visiting. If you have visited, consider going back. But this time, consider going back to do something very solid, not just for yourself, but for the next generation, to contribute for the development of Africa. You can reach us on social media, Certified Africa.
Follow us on Instagram at Certified Africa. And you can also subscribe. Please subscribe to our YouTube. And also, I think, follow us on YouTube.
Yes, but subscribe to our YouTube. It's very important.
Follow us on Facebook.
Just come and support. To every time where you can join the family. We're building an amazing family. We're trying to get as much people as possible connected to the continent, to the motherland. Very important. And change some of the perceptions that have been created that creates tension, between Black people. We want to dissolve some of them when it comes to Africa. So join us again next Friday. We're going to be here next Friday talking about Africa. We love you so much. Enjoy your weekend. God bless. God bless.